What is up, guys? Phaedo82 coming at you with the 10th edition of Rust Cribs, in which we take a look at some of the more noteworthy base designs during the past wipe cycle on the US Rustopia server. This series also focuses on taking a look at trends in building in Rust. With each iteration of Rust, building evolves, players adapt, and we talk about best practices and what we can learn from looking at these base designs. Right off the bat, we're taking a look at an absolutely massive compound, probably one of the compounds with the largest footprint, if not the largest footprint, that we've ever filmed in Rust Cribs. This compound was put together by XO, Paulo Loco, Lorax, and quite a few other individuals. Some of the things that we want to learn from this compound are the fact that they're utilizing two different biomes. They're building on the border to two different biomes here, which gives them access to two different types of resources that are vitally important. Also, guys, you want to make note of the fact that there's an abundance of resources in this area. Rust has really turned into a resource game at this point, so when you're building a base, you really want to think about utilizing the landscape and building in a location where you're going to have access to a lot of resources. So you'll notice here that they have pump jacks going, they have quarries going, they have pumpkins planted, but there's also an abundance of trees in this area. So this group actually found probably the sweetest spot on the server, and they can have trees, quarries, pump jacks, and all the resources they need in this one contained area. With that being said, they've also utilized the space to accommodate rad towns. They've housed one of the warehouses in this compound, and then if you look in the background, you'll notice the globe monument, the sphere, which is also in close proximity. It's also very important right now in the game to acquire blueprints and mats and things of that nature, so they're able to make runs to the rad towns and ensure that they constantly have a supply of not only the resources, but the blueprints that are much desired as well. This is an absolutely stunning achievement, guys, and really what you want to take note of here again is the fact that Rust has now turned into a resource game in terms of building, and you really want to find a location that's very rich in resources, so take note of that when you're looking at this base. And now we're taking a look at a compound with another large footprint, which is also utilizing quarries, pump jacks, things of that nature to get the resources they need to build this base. This is a really well-placed base, and the base that's the main base here has the ledges, which are going to help you to mitigate against ladders, also help you soak up rockets. You'll see the players are decking the base out with their own individual flair. They're putting signs up there, which is really cool to see. It kind of adds that personal touch to it, and it's something that players really get into, and I really like seeing that on Rustopia. But let's go ahead and take a look. As we pan out here, guys, just make note of a few things. That the base is positioned with its back to the water, which is really important to create sort of a natural bottleneck. And then there's a tower up here as well, which looks out over the compound to ensure that they don't have any blind spots and that they can see in a 360-degree radius at any given point in time, which is always important for mitigating against raids and spotting raiders. Now we're taking a look at the Yar compound. The Yar pirates built this snowy palace. They decided to move inland, and it's an absolutely wonderful base. So the things you want to take note of here, guys, are they're using the high ground here. Anyone who's familiar with tactics in terms of military tactics, if you have the high ground, you have the advantage, and they most certainly have the high ground here. They have the elevation, which is definitely something that's going to work in their favor if they're to be raided. It also gives them that vantage point so that any given time they can see what's going on around them. The buildings are designed in ways that they're going to mitigate against raids and ladders and things of that nature. But really here, guys, one of the things I want to point out is a really cool thing that's a wall or a tunnel almost that was made, which goes down the mountain and connects with a group who they're allied with at the bottom. This required a lot of resources to make, and this was put together by KCMO from the Yar group. He worked hard day and night to build this, and it's really cool to see that. We don't see things of that magnitude too often. Looks sort of like the Great Wall of China, the Great Wall of Rustopia, if you will. Really cool stuff, KCMO. Keep up the good work. Alright, guys, we're moving on to a rad town base that was put together by the Girth crew, Suspect, Stained, Puddin, and a few other people as well. It's always a ballsy move to wall off a rad town, but if anybody can do it, it's going to be these guys. You'll notice that they put their own flair with some signs on the outer wall here, and they're using those perimeter walls to make a perimeter right around this rad town, which is good practice, and it's utilizing those resources appropriately. You'll notice they're also using those stone perimeter walls to put around their main base, which is going to help reinforce that base and help soak up rockets and C4. Those stone perimeter walls are really good sponges for rockets and C4, guys, so if you can go ahead and layer those around your base, you're going to want to go ahead and do that. We're taking a look now at a building concept that was put into practice by LQM. LQM always brings their A game to building. Unfortunately, this go around on the Rustopia server, they had some betrayal in their group. They had one of their slaves, their workers, free labor, whatever you want to call it to be fair, but they had somebody give their codes away, and they're actually getting raided during this piece of footage. So it was unfortunate that the codes were given out. So guys, always, if you're going to have slaves in your group or people working for you, don't give them the codes to your main base. Have them have a separate shack, a separate house with separate codes. So fortunately, one of the things that they had here going for them is that their main base wasn't in the towers. They had a cave base to fall back to, which is something you guys always want to have, a fallback base. So they still were able to recover in their cave. Now we're taking a look, guys, the YPB compound. YPB has a smaller compound with a little bit smaller footprint than some of the other larger groups here. They have a smaller group, they're more of a tight-knit group, but this base does have an absolutely massive footprint. It might not look like it right off the bat, but this base was designed like a prison. Very difficult to raid, very difficult to get into. A group actually tried raiding this base and used 50 rockets and only got to about 1 loot room and got very little yield out of that. I can't say much, guys, about what's going on in this base in terms of the nuances of it and the defenses. I was sworn to secrecy, but there are a lot of doors in here, and the base will require an absolute ton of resources if it's to be raided properly. Alright guys, now we're moving on, taking a look at a water base. I've always enjoyed water bases. This is not a full water base because it's actually being built on a small piece of land that's out in the water. So it's using a small patch of land, but it still has some of the benefits of a water base. What you want to make note of here are those ledges, which are always important. And again, those stone perimeter walls, which are placed around the lower part of the base, which is going to help you to reinforce that. There's the auxiliary building cabinets in the water, which you want to have to increase the building radius for you. And when we're taking a look at the structure of the base here, their quarries are housed separately from the main base, which is always a good practice. Now we're moving on to the compound of Dirt McGirt and crew. Dirt McGirt and his crew put together a sprawling compound here out in the biome, which is the desert, where it almost meets sort of the forest. And you'll notice here that they actually had to sort of terrace it a little bit. They are going uphill in part of it, so they had to build conforming to the landscape here, which is really interesting. Their main base is a cylindrical base here, which is interesting. It has the ledges, it has different things going for it, which are always things that we want to implement. And going up, guys, you'll notice here the fact that the landscape is being used wisely. They're having to use those quarries in locations where they're going to get the yield from and then build and adapt to the landscape. One of the things that you guys want to make note of here is they actually have a church here, which was a very interesting place. Lots of interesting things happened in this church. Sermons were held here, confessions were held here, and some of the stuff that was said in these areas will stay in these areas, but it was quite interesting. Ghost, the owner of Rustopia, put together a club called Club Synergy. Very interesting place. Lots of interesting stuff happened here as well. And we're sorry we didn't get to show some of it off, but it was a fun time. And everyone who came here had a pretty good time. And it was really good stuff. It's always good to see the community come together on the server and do kind of special things like this. A group went together and also built an amphitheater, which was also utilized by the community. And that's always stuff that's really interesting, guys. When people build things to foster that sense of community in Rust and kind of break up the monotony of raiding and building and just kind of come together, have fun. Whether it's a amphitheater like this, a club like Ghost Build, or an arena, it's always good to see that community events going on and the community building going on. And Harmony, a shout out to Harmony. We didn't capture any of her footage this week, but she put together another new player haven, which is always good. This is a pretty cool castle type design here, which was still under construction towards the end of the wipe cycle, but I wanted to show it off because it's interesting to see. And I really think it's a cool example of kind of breaking the norm in Rust, but still using some things that are going to help protect your base, like those ledges and honeycombing it. And players, as always, had fun with signs. We're taking a look at just an example of some signs that players got creative with here. Not a base that's super secure, but the signs do help to make it more secure because you got to break through those signs before you can get into the main base. Alright guys, I really hope you enjoyed this series. This is the 10th episode of Rust Cribs. I like doing it. I'm going to keep doing it every week. The players in Rustopia favorably respond to it. As always, guys, I have a lot of fun making it. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, liking. As always, guys, Phaedo 82, peace.